All right, I think we are live, everyone. So, welcome today, everyone. I'm Jonna Standish. I'm the head of business development at MyDAO, and I'm the host of today's Just DAO It Masterclass webinar series. I am part of the team here at MyDAO, and I'm joined by my friends at Goverland, our friends and MyDAO partner at the Goverland team. So this masterclass series is an extension of our Just DAO It podcast, which is by MyDAO CEO and co-founder Adam Miller. The Just DAO It masterclass is a new webinar series that we're trying out, and we will iterate it as we go. It's created for all Web3 projects, lawyers, tax advisors, and DAO service providers, and really anyone that's interested in learning more about Web3. So we're offering this access to free education because we believe it's a big part of what we do and our ethos at MyDAO and also at Just DAO It. And we're here to serve curious minds around the globe, and we encourage everybody to ask questions and always ask why. So today we welcome our guests from Goverland, and I'm going to turn it over to the Goverland team to have them introduce themselves. And Andre, I'll start with you.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Andre, and I'm in crypto space since 2018. I was working for Gnosis on the Gnosis Safe mobile product. And since last year, me together with my partners, we are working on the Goverland. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing here. Varia?
Well, welcome. We're happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, Varia. Oh, you're on mute. By the way, we're filming live. We're doing live streaming, so
mute.
there's always some technical difficulty that happens.
Sorry about that. Yeah, didn't want to interrupt before. So, hello, my name is Varia, and I'm in business marketing development for like forever. For my last one I did is with German company around the globe to be the marketing leader of country or something. So now I am a businessman developer in Goverland. So and I'm trying to do my best and bring in all my expertise to the team and also to this seminar which we're having today. Hopefully, because I'm kind of multitasking.
Well, we're happy to have you. So welcome, Varia. And for anybody that's just tuning in, all of our guests' contact information is up here on the slide. And we'll also post this again at the end if you'd like to get in touch with them. So thank you for those introductions, Andre and Varia. And then we're going to turn it over to Anatoly.
Yes, hi everyone. Thanks for having me here today. Yeah, I come mostly from the traditional finance, doing mostly trading and risk management solutions. But for the last year, I have been heavily involved with blockchain technology. I've been delivering tech products from the scratch, and currently I work as basically in-house research analyst for Goverland, doing deriving some useful data based on the DAO performance and what DAO is doing so far. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Anatoly. Welcome and happy to have you here. And Maria.
Maria will not present.
Is Maria just tuning in?
Yep.
Okay. Well, we can skip over Maria. Hi, Maria. We welcome you here. And Anatoly is going to be driving the slides here. And so let's just quickly walk through what today's masterclass topic is about. We're going to be navigating the DAO tooling landscape. And the team here from Goverland is going to tell us all about that. And these are our learning objectives. We're going to talk about navigating the DAO tooling landscape. We're going to talk about how DAOs can go about configurations via snapshot, implementing those. And then we're going to recognize the key challenges. And then the team from Goverland is going to help us figure out how to evaluate DAO setup pros and cons. So I'm going to pass it back over to you, Anatoly, to get into unpacking all of this. And we're looking forward to your session today.
Thanks, Yana. I will start our session today. So let's start maybe with a high-level overview of the DAO's tasks that they have, especially it doesn't depend on the size of the DAO or the stage of the DAO, but basically every time you try to build some decentralized autonomous organization, you want to engage your community into some decision-making process, yeah? So usually you have several stages, like ideas discussion, preparation for the voting, and then some DAOs, they have only off-chain voting, many DAOs have on-chain voting involved, and also the decisions that are made by the community, they need to be enforced somehow. So let's focus on these concrete tasks. And how usually DAO solve these tasks. Right now in the industry, we because the DAO space is quite new and the tooling was evolving like chaotically a bit in the last couple of years. So major or OG DAOs, they collected something like a DAO Lego blocks stack, where they use a lot of different tooling to organize this whole process that I was talking before. But also we see a lot of projects that are building right now something like DAO operational systems. So it's single interface where you can provide full experience to new and future DAOs, or maybe to the old one as well. So to make it more pleasant and more convenient for everyone. But let's go deeper into Lego blocks and DAO operational systems and what can we tell about them. So as you know, DAOs, like all the process initiates from some ideas discussions. And where usually people or communities of DAOs discuss these ideas, of course, it's Discord. Discord became kind of a standard for a community channel for ad hoc discussions. But if you want to make it in more structured way, asynchronously, or in more serious approach, a lot of DAOs, they employ Discourse. Discourse is an open source solution to organize forums. So a lot of big DAOs like Lida, Gnosis, or Optimism, they all use Discourse. And hopefully later we will share this presentation. You can navigate these links and to see how these interfaces look for different DAOs. But also there are more recent tooling that recognize this problem of organizing efficient communication specifically for the DAOs. And for example, I can mention Commonwealth. They're doing a great job of doing discussions phase for the DAOs and also the voting. But yeah, I would like to point out this true tooling for this phase. Also, it's worth mentioning that Commonwealth, they already some big DAOs there like 1inch or DYDX. After the discussion is made, a lot of DAOs, they employ off-chain voting. So there are several purposes for off-chain voting. One can be the sanity check. So DAOs can engage with the community to understand if, in general, this makes sense to proceed to the next stage of the voting, like on-chain voting, where the execution will be enforced and when the real decision will be made. But also a lot of DAOs, I would say even the majority of the DAOs, they're using only off-chain voting, only off-chain space, and kind of this community governance is happening only there. It happened that Snapshot de facto became a standard of this off-chain voting, and it is used by most DAOs. Right now, it's used by OG DAOs, it's used by new, smaller DAO spaces. So if you're bootstrapping a new DAO or you're interested like in what tooling to select, I guess that like almost for certain you will use Snapshot for your goals. So advantage of the Snapshot, because it's off-chain, it's gas-free. You don't need to organize on-chain voting, and creates less friction for users, for your community. So it's more experimental, more agile. So it has a lot of advantages, and it's very customizable. Later today, Vari will make an actual workshop on the Snapshot, how to set up a new DAO, like on the test environment, and demonstrate it to you. And I will move to the next tooling for the DAO is on-chain voting. So why do we need, in general, on-chain voting for DAOs? First of all, on-chain, to make any vote, you need to make an on-chain transaction. So it has a much higher trust level. It has some such properties as execution enforcement. So if a DAO has a treasury, so you can attach to this vote, for example, some real transaction on the treasury to subsidize some team or to allocate some grant or whatsoever. So the outcomes of this voting, it can be automatically enforced by the smart contract. And this is the biggest advantages of the on-chain voting. Right now on the on-chain voting landscape, there are several most popular solutions I would mention. And I think the most popular one right now is Governor contracts. It's an open source standard. It was developed first by, I think, Compound team, and later it became as part of Open Zeppelin open source library. Later, the Tally interface, it's like a web interface on top of the Governor contract standard, is heavily used by many DAOs to actually organize this on-chain voting process. So this connection of Open Zeppelin Governor contracts and the Tally is like a big player in on-chain voting in general. But also there are some projects quite old in the space, like Aragon, who are building their own DAO operational system. They did already several iterations of the smart contracts. They also have quite some DAOs using them, for example, Lido or Decentraland, and they recently released a new version. So if you're thinking about organizing some on-chain voting in your DAO, you definitely should at least take a look and make a proper research of these both solutions, what will suit best for you. But also Snapshot, who is here, we mentioned that Snapshot is mostly got its popularity because of off-chain voting. Right now, Snapshot team is moving to the on-chain voting narrative, and the team is working on the protocol Snapshot X. I think this year it will be much more noticeable in the space. And very few people know that actually it's possible to organize on-chain transaction execution enforcement using Snapshot if you're using safe snap modules on the Gnosis Zodiac. Again, here I left some links. You can go and read the documentation on the Snapshot. But in general, there is a way for Snapshot communities actually to enforce execution of the voting by using safe snap module. Okay, but also it's worth mentioning that a lot of teams are working right now in the space on the completely new approaches to the DAO on-chain voting. For example, One Hive Gardens is working on the approach of conviction voting. DAO House, Colony, and many more to mention. So we expect that in the next couple of years, the landscape of the on-chain voting DAOs can change dramatically. Okay, so we mentioned some projects that we can recognize as DAO building blocks or DAO tools, but what about DAO operational systems, like this single united interface that serves all the purposes? I would say it could be something like Atlassian in the Web2 world, where you select some stack and you can build absolutely every part of your organizational process just on this stack. I would say that no any existing player on the market is there yet, but definitely projects like Aragon is moving to this direction, like Snapshot is moving in this direction, but also some other products like DAO is moving in this direction. And DAO is interesting because it's not on Ethereum ecosystem, it's not on EVM chain, but it's still a DAO space. I just wanted to demonstrate that it's beyond Ethereum or beyond EVM chains.
Hey, Andrew, can I ask you a question here?
Yeah, for sure.
So a lot of this has to do with first mover, like who's sort of like in the leading position right now has to do with first mover position, sort of like with any product. It doesn't really matter if it's software or Web3 or consumer product. And so obviously the first mover always has the advantage, but like in the next year or two, do you anticipate there being some consolidation here or just new players entering the space? Because yeah, it's almost like inevitable.
I think that consolidations happens after some phase of chaos. So I don't know if the phase of chaos is already over, but definitely I know that there are some communities like DAOstar, for example, who are trying to make some shared standards, at least across on-chain frameworks, so that some EAPs in the DAO space, that they at least implement the CAPs, so make the things easier. So consolidation is happening already. I don't know if there will be more bigger players. I guess that the players that you see right now on the screen, like Aragon, Snapshot X, or players mentioned here, they will keep the 80 or 90% of the market maybe in the next 5 years. But this is my personal guess. Yeah, because, for example, when Atlassian was on the market, I don't know, 15 or 20 years ago, no one thought about the Notion or other new products. Yeah, but now a lot of startups continue using it. So
yeah,
we don't know.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Dan. So, and as finalization of my part, I would just again give not a financial advice, but giving an advice to young DAOs. You need to think carefully if you need a token from the day one, because if you want to make on-chain voting, probably you need a token. But if you want to make off-chain voting, you not necessarily need a token. Again, you need to decide if you need on-chain voting from day one, and probably it's a good idea to follow the progressive decentralization principles, where you don't need to think about full decentralization from the day one, because full decentralization is always complicated, hard, and much harder to implement than just moving there step by step. But keep everything in mind. Thank you, and I would like to hand over presentation to Varya.
And that's me. Can you please show the slide? Next slide.
I think you just should share your screen.
No worries. No worries about that. So what I'm going to do, sorry about that, but I need to share the whole screen of mine, because we are going to do some snapshot space today, which I hope it would be fun. I'm sharing the screen right now.
Okay, yeah, and don't worry about it, Varya. Whenever we're live, it's like, it's Murphy's Law. Something will go wrong. So if you need any assistance, we're happy to help out. So just let us know.
That's good. So I'm sharing right now. We'll start from, do you see? Because I don't see you guys now.
Yes, we can see it. You would just need to put it in presentation mode.
Yeah, it's a little bit, I'll not put it on a mode, because it's one slide I have.
Oh, okay. No problem.
Yes, we will move to the to another URLs, I would say. So what I wanted to show today is how to set up a space in a snapshot. Because sometimes it's quite tricky for people who haven't done it yet. So what I'm highly advise that first, if you going to do the space on a snapshot, so please test it before. You can test it with Goverland test network, so you can get some test ETH there, which you can get here, for example. So just like 0.02 Goverland would be enough for you to start your testing. You can just add this network to your, like, I have MetaMask, maybe you have any other wallet. Just put it there. So and make sure that you have, I'll show you here, that you have the Goverland network. So you mine some ETC. I mined a lot of these test things. Then we go into the ENS domains. Like every space and snapshot have to have ENS domain. So ENS domain is your DAO domain, which you have to buy, obviously. Sometimes it's cost enough. Sometimes it costs much, sometimes less. It depends on the gas. So for example, well, MIDAO, we already, let's do anyone, like Goverland today, for example. Oh, sorry about that.
It's okay. So, Varya, while you're doing that, can I just ask a question it's almost like very, very, very basic? I realize there's some assumptions here that people.
This is very basic, because we are going to make a space in a snapshot. For doing the space in a snapshot, you need to have an ENS domain. Without ENS domain, you cannot create a space. But if you want to try before, if you want to try snapshot without spoiling your domain, for example, because if you put your domain in a real snapshot, you will already create a space, and you won't be able to use it twice.
Okay, so the first thing that they would need is an ENS domain. That was sort of where I was going with that.
Sorry about that. Yeah, that's an essential main thing. Okay. So you will need to do this. And for example, I'm just showing how to get this. So for example, this is available. So, and then it depends on the gas. So now we are looking at the test network. It's quite cheap. But if you would look on a real network, it would be sometimes like approx $70, sometimes $150 or whatever, and you can buy it for like this years. Just wanted to show you this so you would really understand how to do this. Quite easy if you have money.
Yeah, no, this is great. And so if a DAO is just starting out right now, like let's say it's a startup DAO and it doesn't have any prior tooling in place, it's probably easier for them because right, they can start fresh. But if a DAO is already sort of like mid maturity and is already using tools, is the best way for them to just sort of abandon what they were doing and start fresh, or do you try to pull what you have from the past and pull it into your present?
Well, I wouldn't say that it's starting from the fresh right now, because this what each DAO anyway needs. So if DAO doesn't have it as the main, they will need to have it at some point anyway.
Right. Okay.
So if they're already in the middle, I suppose they already have it.
Okay.
But probably as we already, as Andre mentioned, that decentralized is it's quite hard right now to make whole decentralized. So what we are seeing that sometimes DAOs are already doesn't have this in as they didn't set up the voting even in a snapshot, because probably they don't need it. It's like probably 3 people or maybe 20. They're okay with Discord or even Twitter or Telegram channels to talk about that. You understand what I mean? But if you want to go forward, if you want to be visual, that's what you will have to do.
Got it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So let's go now. So just let's assume that we already did it, because I already did it for you guys. I already bought the domain for today, the test one. So we are going to the demo snapshot because we are not going to spoil the real snapshot. Again, I'm advising you to try it on a demo version all the time, every time you're trying to do something. So let's go and create a space, like really easy. Get started. So first of all, of course, you go into the snapshot, you log in with your wallet, whatever you have there. But don't forget that you log in with your Garelli if you want to do a test version. I'm already there with the Garelli. So let's do I already did today Goverland Me DAO, if you excuse me for that. That's
Yeah,
nice.
and Varia, would the person doing this, would they be like one of the multi-sigs, or would you recommend somebody with a designated role within the DAO? Who's typically the role that's actually doing what you're doing?
Well, as I'm as a BD, probably the best version of this. Well, it could be an owner. It could be, yes. I would say anyone who would be in this DAO for the whole life for the whole life of DAO.
I can add more to this.
Yeah.
Basically, you need to think that your INS name that you'll buy for your DAO, it will be a hard connection to your snapshot profile. But INS name is just an NFT, it's transferable. So it's quite easy if just one founder of a DAO buys it, and
Yeah.
later it can be transferred to some multi-sig, so for the security purpose. But just for the setup, you only need this INS name, because snapshot otherwise will not allow you to create a DAO.
Yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
And this DAO, yeah, this added to me, but I also can give it to Andre, this ENS, so it's not like that's that bad. So let's name it today me DAO. Are you there, guys? Because
Yes, we are here.
okay, that's good. Today me DAO education. We can always put something about, we always can configure it later. Let's say we would name it today social, as we socializing with you guys. Let's go next. So the thing is, what we have to do in the DAO next is like how we would like to set up our voting. There is 3 different choices we have: token weighted voting, one person, one vote, custom setup. One person, one vote is an easy one, and you can put a white list of people, like all the addresses of the wallets which you have, and then only them can vote, for example.
Okay.
Voters are weighted by tokens. This is the most popular through among the real DAO who already set them up. So you can either have ERC20, ERC I hope everyone knows what it is. ERC20, it's an exchangeable token which everyone usually using. ERC721, it's usually NFT, some non-exchangeable, and that's a new one. ERC1155, it's like both ERC20 and ERC721. Let's say like they all together.
Okay. And in the custom setup, does that let you do things like have it algorithmically managed, or what's in the custom setup?
The custom setup is very interesting because you can select up to 8 strategies. Actually, about strategies more closer, Anatoly will talk after me. This
Okay.
will show you here how many strategies. There is like loads of strategies, as you see, like whoa, way loads. But what we have like main ones, of course, they're on the top. So this is ERC20 for usual DAOs. What they do in ticket is one of the main popular, because you don't need to have any balance of ETH or whatever there. You can just vote. And that's probably what we will try today. Whitelist, how you put in whitelist there. So and so on. You always, I even have this today here. In a snapshot, you can learn about each strategy. So for example, you go here, and this you can read. This is the most common strategy, returns the balances of the voters. And you can even play grounds this, how it will work for you. So for example, they set it for us. We see how will it work if we would choose this strategy. How will voting be committed?
Yep.
Okay.
Can I add here to the strategies? Very interesting note that because Snapshot is super flexible, you can select several strategies. Or what is a strategy? Strategy is just a JavaScript code that decides how much voting power a voter has based on some conditions.
Right.
So strategy can be your delegated voting power, your ERC20 balance, or just the fact that you have an address in Ethereum with some balance. It can be whatever logical condition you want, and it can be several of them.
Not working today, Snapshot. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. While it's working, can I just ask another question? So
yes.
So it allows you to have different strategies, but does it allow you to change the voting mechanism per vote that you do? So because, pardon me? Yeah.
Yes. What do you mean? Like you can do whatever, any voting mechanism. We will go there later. Like also. So for example, let's say now. So look here. We did them up to 8 strategies. So it's our custom strategies.
Okay.
We put in here, for example, tickets. We make it Ethereum. We have it ETH. We have 1 voting power. We add in this. And the symbol will be always like, what would it be, like valid unit? Not really sure. Let's say ETH. So what is going on? So we chose that 1 person, 1 vote in this ticket. We can also add several strategies here, like up to 8, and they will all mix up and will be plus and plus and plus. So for example, someone delegated, someone has NFT, someone has anything. Almost anything. But DAO have to decide for themselves, of course, how they want to cast their votes, who can vote, and how they can vote.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question, because I'm thinking that each voting mechanism or each voting question is going to have a different weight in terms of its impact on the DAO, right? Like maybe one vote is going to be much more impactful than a more simplistic vote, and therefore you want to deploy the right strategy with that. So that's very helpful.
Yeah. Okay, let's say how he wanted us to set it up, just for us. So when we're doing ticket strategy, so you need to understand, yes, there is like, as an off-chain voting, everyone probably can vote when we say like, this is like 1 vote per address, for example. But Snapshot now is care about the DAOs, more about the bots and about all the unwanted people who come in to vote. So we need to validate the strategy. What is validation? Validation is when we are setting up another strategy, which can say, is it here? No, it's not here. Sorry.
Oh,
Yes.
it's okay.
Yeah.
We're working through it with you.
Yeah. I would say, let's go back. One person, one vote, much easier to show this. What I wanted to. No, it's not that. What?
You have whitelisted selected. One person,
Yeah.
one.
I don't need. No, I don't need whitelisted. Yeah, that's the thing. That's when we doing tickets. We need a validation. See, so this is easiest to show this just at this side. So anyone can vote. We cannot say because it could be lots of boards who would influence on our voting, and we won't get the real results.
Okay.
So we need to select validation. There is three different choices of validation, which is trying to come here very long. But one of them, which I very like, while it's trying to do, it would be Gitcoin passport. So if you
Okay.
have a DAO and if you have a participants and you want them to participate in a snapshot, so you can establish for them some passports that you think that these guys from this DAO is yours and you trust them. So we sign in everyone who has a wallet. It's hard to participate in Web3 without wallet, yeah. So
Yep.
they can validate them on a Gitcoin. Or for example, you can validate that you have a Twitter account. Yes, that you have a Discord account. For example, I validated this account with LinkedIn.
Okay.
I have Ines passport and address. I have NFT and something like, and I have some ETH. So
Okay. Okay. And the reason why this validation is important is to help prevent things like civil attacks and things of that nature, right?
yes. So, for example, if you can set it up. For example, if it would be Twitter, so you can say like it would be encrypted Twitter account name, so he's real person, yeah, or that he have a tweet posts or something. So everyone have to validate themselves, and then we showing them. Then like DAOs will have to set up some rules about that, or
Yeah.
everyone is in a Discord, which is quite easy. Yeah, all the many DAOs participating with all the talking and navigation through Discord. That would be easy to like who have a Discord account that they can participate in voting.
Vari, I have a question. So
Yes.
I'm part of a couple. So I, work. My day job is with my DAO. It's where I spend the majority of my time. But I also participate in a couple of other DAOs, like Bankless DAO and also FTW DAO. In Bankless DAO, it was widely published that there was a civil attack. This was a couple of months ago, and a member had gone and created several accounts. Let's say, for example, in Discord. I don't want to totally rehash the whole thing, but it's public information. It was publicized. So if a DAO is not using like a passport validation tool, then like what would you say the percentage likelihood of a civil attack is? Because it seems like it could be quite high.
Wow.
I think Vare don't have a lot of data, but Anatoly has much more, and he will present even the.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
We have this data already as Anatoly as a head of a research here. He will explain this. Yeah, we found quite a lot interesting information.
Was promoted all of a sudden.
Yeah, amazing. And because I feel like I could be wrong. This is unscientific. It's just based on my experience working with DAOs. And at my DAO, I talk with anywhere between like 20 to 50 DAOs a week. And majority of them are not using these validation tools, which I think there's a lot of room for. I think we all want to improve on the way we do governance and the way, voting happens and things of that nature. But this is a really important topic, and I can see the value in this.
Yeah. So say for example, like we can this very interesting like ETH at possessions at least like if it would say 32 ETH, it would be hardly bought then because bots doesn't have so much.
Yeah.
So so you can validate it here, which would be quite good, yeah, for all the DAOs who want to participate. So we still here, we cannot select a validation here, so I'm sorry guys about that.
It's okay. This is
not
hopefully just walking through it.
our our work today is not really working. Oh yes, it is. So Gitcoin passport dated. So as it would be like live somewhere, we have live here and someone will watch it. So let's create some small proposal and let's say that, well, as I did, to be honest, I just did LinkedIn. So LinkedIn account. Let's say if anyone who have on Gitcoin passport LinkedIn account or something, they can vote.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like this? Next, so we set it up that we have a validation like this. That's me, a member. I'll copy my thing. That's definitely me. Yes. So, and we create in a space, we can put members here, as you see, yeah, like all the wallets, all the like IDs of people. And we can set up them some moderator, author, admin or something. So, and we create in the space. Yay! We sign it and we have in the space ready for us to go.
Okay.
If it would be fast. I don't have much time, as I see. For proposal, what do you think, Anatoly?
It's fine. I can start my part if it's okay.
Yeah, and I think this was a great walkthrough, Varya. Like, it's okay that the whole thing didn't work. I mean, you gave us the idea of how we start out, what validation tools are available, and what the different options are. I think it's really helpful.
And proposal, it's quite easy. See, like new proposal. Yay, doing here. Then yes, no, or whatever we want, and then we just doing it. Okay, thank you so much for participation with me. I'll stop my sharing. And Anatoly, maybe you would share, or Andrei will share the next.
Yes, just a second. I'm opening the presentation.
I forgot to turn on my camera before.
It's okay. We heard you. Okay. Do you need any assistance there, Anatoly?
I don't think so. Just 1 second.
Okay.
You should see my presentation soon.
Okay, great. And the good news is, I guess while that's loading, I'll just let you all know I've received some questions, so I'll make sure I save them at the end and ask you some good questions. Okay, I'm not seeing your presentation, Anatoly.
Yeah, 1 second. It just says it's processing.
Oh, it's just loading? Okay. Okay, great. And while that's loading, Anatoly, do you just want to introduce yourself again? Just for the people who may be just joining now?
Yes, of course. So currently I'm doing basically, I'm a research analyst at Goverland. Basically, I look at any data relevant to DAO spaces, and I'm trying to derive some useful info from it. As an intro on what I will be presenting, there are basically 3 parts to my presentation. Part 1, I talk about general market statistics. I will be showing where DAO basically is as of now, based on current market stats. Second, I will talk about some common problems in DAO, such as voter apathy. And in the third part, I will talk about the solutions, basically what DAOs are doing to improve, to get basically people involved and boost the participation. So you should see my slides now. Can you do that?
Let me just check here. I see it. Yep. Okay, it's on.
Great. Right. So first, talking about the general market statistics. Currently on the screen, you can see the historical data based on snapshot. Keep in mind, it's only snapshot. It doesn't account for on-chain voting, such as Aragon or other frameworks. It's only snapshot is basically one of the key ways DAOs encourage participation. We can see that for the most part since 2021, DAO has been somewhat stale. There has been much of a growth or downfall, but we definitely see some growth in the last 4 months. Especially in May, we see a huge growth. So there was over 25,000 unique proposals done on Snapshot and over 5 million votes cast, which is much larger than any other month. We do need to acknowledge here that some of the Snapshot spaces do not have like a project behind them, which they want to drive. For example, like Ava, the Snapshot DAO they have, whatever the proposals they have there, they have something to do with how Ava operates and what it does. Some snapshots have just general stuff, like some guy might want to ask some general questions such as, do you like current president, or is COVID real? Will I ever get a girlfriend? Stuff like that. So, and those spaces exist, but still, regardless, we can say that DAO has been on the growth in the last 4 months. Second, if we talk about snapshot voting systems, so right now you can see historical graphs of voting systems have been used in DAO spaces. Of course, like basic proposals or single choice proposals are dominant. It's basically when you go to a certain proposal on DAO, 99% it will be just something like choose option you like, or just vote yes or no. But there are some other voting systems which we'll cover here. So weighted voting is used around 1.6% of the time. This is basically, for example, when you need to allocate certain percentage. Like you don't need to just say yes or no. You need to say, example, I want to allocate 20% of treasury tokens to liquidity pool 1. I want to allocate 30% of my tokens to liquidity pool 2, etc. So if I need something like that, I can use weighted voting in DAOs to basically tell people how they see the optimal allocation. Quadratic voting is quite rarely used, but it's basically the idea of quadratic voting is to boost the minorities. So basically, when we do quadratic, if I contribute, for example, 100 tokens, 100 units of voting power to a certain proposal, only a square root of those 100 will be taken into account. So it will be 10 tokens, basically 10 voting power. Why would I do such a proposal? Well, it's to encourage basically small users, minorities to participate. Because, for example, if I'm just a single whale who holds, example, 50% of the tokens, I can just vote and my proposal will be chosen. But if we do quadratic voting and there are, example, 100 people who just have one token, they just, because a square root is taking, they might basically overcome it. Their total voting power, which is accounted as a proposal, will be larger than just one whale. It sounds cool, but there are some problems with it because if we do quadratic, some participants, such as a big whale, what he can do, he can just create many individual addresses and put a small amount of tokens on each, and then it's just equals to win. And it actually might be even easier for him to win this way than to allocate a lot of tokens on a single address. So largely, this is one of the ways why it's not used widely. Ranked choice is basically, for example, it's often used when you need to elect certain members. Like example, I want this particular delegate, I put it in him in priority. If he doesn't win, I'm okay with whoever I chose on the second ranking, etc. And approval voting is basically when I can just put any option I like. So there are multiple options. I'm just saying I'm okay with this, and that. I'm not okay with that. But so all of those are mostly minorities. If you go to snapshot spaces, most of the time you will just see single choices or basic voting systems. Secondly, let's talk about, so this was the first part. Second part, let's talk about some common DAO problems. One of them is, of course, voter apathy. Right now on the screen, you can see some statistics. Those are some fairly large DAOs on Snapshot. And we can see that for most of them, the voter participation, basically the amount of voting power compared to the overall circulating token supply, on average is around 5%, maybe 10%, which means that basically around 90% of tokens are not contributed to the average proposal. Is it a problem? Well, yes, it needs to be addressed, but we do need to understand that just like with example, some regular shareholder-based company, most DAO holders, governance token holders, they don't have time and knowledge to assess absolutely every single proposal. Here I have an example. It's just some recent proposal by Ava. If you read it, for example, I believe that if any of us read it, none of us will be able to like instantly assess and understand what I need to choose, how it affects me, how it affects the project.
Yeah.
So it's normal. It is okay that many proposals in DAO require very specific knowledge, and people really need to be interested in digging into it. But it doesn't mean that the DAO is ineffective, not at all. Being able to, for example, gather community when it is needed. For example, when some crazy proposal, like for example, maybe printing just random tokens for the core team is proposed. If there is a proposal which seems malicious and community attention is drawn to it, community can just ban it or choose something else, which is quite powerful. It doesn't mean that people just need to dedicate all the voting power on every single proposal.
Yeah.
Second
problem. Can I just ask a question here, Anatoly? Do you think DAOs are getting wiser to the fact, like, if there's only a 5% participation rate in voting, for example, doesn't that maybe beg the question to look into the insights as to, okay, the question is like, why? Is it maybe everybody doesn't need to vote on all of these things, right? And perhaps maybe the governance structure needs to be changed for how voting takes place or what the topics are that the voting is on. Because, you know, to have below 5%, what does that say? And it really, to me, begs the question is like, hey, maybe we should look at our governance structure when it comes to voting and participation and how we utilize all the contributors, because it almost seems like a huge waste of all of that, all of those tokens, all of the value, and all of the members. And it actually makes you say it's not really a DAO if you have less than 5% voting, because it's almost like a board of directors. That's who's voting, right?
It's a very interesting question, and of course, voter participation needs to be boosted. Each DAO needs to establish proper access, and in part 3 we'll talk about it in more detail. But basically, so question number 1: do we need to achieve a situation when, example, 99% of all voting power is contributed to each proposal? It would be cool, but is it possible? I would say no, and because many proposals, there's a lot of like micromanagement. Like example, what testing network should we use? What do we need to do with our treasury? What blockchain do we need to take to apply our product to build on this blockchain? There's a lot of micromanagement, a lot of small decisions, and an average user just doesn't have the time or knowledge or just passion to assess all of them. I would say that a very powerful factor about DAO is that you have an ability to attract community, a major community, when it's really needed. Like when you need to make some major change, or when you need to when there is some malicious attempt and some particular users just start to attract attention of wider audience to help to, and we have seen some cases like MakerDAO or Optimism, when the community was able to basically gather together at a particular point in time when it was needed to make a proper decision. This is like my position. So I believe that many micromanagement things can be just delegated, and we'll talk about delegates in part 3. And for really major proposals, major things, we need wide audience to contribute. That would be my position, at least. Yes.
Yeah, it's great points. Thank you.
So when we talk about whales, just some quick stats. So I need to note here, we define a whale as a person who is basically in top 5% of users based on their holdings. This is how we define a whale. And what we can see is that in some major products, you can see here, like 1inch, Ava, those pretty big DAOs, the whales basically occupy like 97% of all the voting power dedicated to an average proposal, which basically adds up to the previous point of water episode. But as we discussed so far, yes, it is a problem. It needs to be addressed, but it's not like it doesn't indicate that the situation is catastrophic. It's just the nature of things. Like small users, average users, do not have time and knowledge to assess every single proposal, and they're not really interested in doing so often. So having established the problems, let's talk about the solutions. So how can DAOs basically boost participation to and just some other stats. Sorry, basically it says this is just some stats on the bots. Basically, it's like third problem in particular in Snapshot, because Snapshot is off-chain gasless voting. It basically means that there are potential lot of spammy activities of people who want to just vote for the sake of, for example, getting airdrop for participating in Snapshot voting. Many DAOs do not really have stopped taking Snapshot voting into account when it's airdrops, because there's a lot of spammy, a lot of like algo activity. And just to show you some stats here, so we have here some top addresses who generated income using airdrops, and we can see that top 50 airdrop hunters earn more than 4 million USD in airdrops. So this is definitely something people are attracted to. They participate in voting. They may not even assess the proposal properly. They just want to basically get some airdrops just because they participate in it. So the third problem. So having established the problems which are currently present in the DAOs, let's think about solutions. So when I think about voter apathy and when I think about whales, delegation might be one of the answers. So, and one of the good examples of DAOs which employ delegation is MakerDAO. Right now you can see on the screen some general stats on how delegation performs in MakerDAO. This is straight from their dashboard. You can find it on the web. Just Google MakerDAO delegate dashboard. So basically what it says is that we have a selection of users who participate regularly in DAO. They basically have it as a full-time job. They properly assess all the proposals, and they have a certain motivation to do so. So they have some rewards for being a good delegate. So they vote on every proposal. They carefully assess all of them. They stay in the loop, etc. And so what we can do is that we can say to regular users, instead of assessing every single proposal, find a person who you see as a trustworthy person who knows what he's doing, and delegate your voting power to him. So he will do active participation for you. So in this case, basically, as a regular user, I don't need now to dig into every single proposal. I need to decide who I trust. And we can see, for example, in MakerDAO that over 10% of all circulating supply of MKR is delegated, which is a lot. So basically, 10% of tokens are delegated. So this is considered to be one of the ways how we can solve the user apathy and whales participation. Some other protocols, such as Synthetics, also do it this way. The other answer, so when we think about bots and just in general user engagement, it's very important to just establish proper access, proper basically steps to get the proposal assessed and voted on. And if you think, for example, such DAOs as Lido, what they have is that they have 3 steps of proposal assessment and voting. First is the research forum, which doesn't require any voting. It's just when some certain concepts are dropped there and community can give their comments, so they can discuss it. After that, there is a snapshot voting, which is off-chain, and it's not for most proposals. It's not final. Whatever is voted on snapshot is not put in action immediately after it is done. It is just to assess basically the temperature, to assess what people think about a certain proposal, and only then they do on-chain voting, which allows them. And once it is on-chain and people vote, this becomes final and gets implemented. So it's just as an example of how DAOs can establish proper access, avoid getting spammed by some snapshot bots, and just a general healthy approach to assess things and make a decision. So that's basically what I wanted to say, and I would like to pass the word to Andrei, who will talk a bit about Goverland. Before that, if there are any questions to me, I can answer, or I can answer them later. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Anatoly. Those were really interesting insights, and I'd love to talk with you more after about that, because I think there's a lot of lessons learned there for all of us in terms of what we could glean from those insights and how we could utilize them to change the way that we structure our governance, or to change the way that we're doing voting, and maybe anticipate the future problems that we may have and that we can maybe put the right instruments in like our smart contracts to catch those problems before they happen. So yeah, thank you, all of you. I'd like to read, we have a couple of minutes left. I'd like to read some of the questions that came in. And one of them was, okay, Goverland, what is your business model and who is the profile of like your perfect client?
Okay, I can answer these questions. Thanks, first of all, that you're interested in our business model. Goverland, by nature, we build an open source infrastructure to facilitate communication between DAOs and wallets because their users keep their tokens. So we want to make governance more accessible, more convenient, and to bring it on your mobile devices. So this way, we also want to tackle this low participation rate problem. Business model right now, we provide all our services as a public good, but we definitely have ideas for how we can potentially earn there. If you are more interested in listening it or like from the investor point of view, we have contacts. We will be happy to talk to you in more details because now if I start answering this question, it will be another maybe 10 minutes. That's why this will be my gentle answer.
Okay, great. Thank you. So if any DAO today said, I'd love to try utilizing Goverland, all they have to do is it's available. They can start using it today.
Goverland as a protocol will be available this fall. Goverland is a mobile application. It's basically convenient DAO tracker in your pocket. It will be available next week for the alpha version. So we are coming to Paris. We will be in Paris, and if you will be in Paris as well, we'll be happy to talk or happy to connect. We can find it as DAO East, the main event. And definitely follow our Twitter updates. We will share invite to the alpha version next week.
Okay, perfect. And while we're still checking questions here, can you put up the contact page for Goverland for all of you guys so that?
Yeah, sure. Tolek, could you please navigate to the last page of the presentation? There will be contact page.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and the other question, let's see, some of the other questions are, what is the biggest challenge in implementing these new types of tooling?
Biggest challenge. It depends on what kind of tooling. We are in the DAO's tooling landscape. We are an aggregator. We try to aggregate events from different DAO operational systems or different DAO tooling to make it conveniently accessible on different devices. But that's why, as an aggregator, I can speak about the difficulties. We mentioned before earlier in this presentation compliance of the standards. Yeah? So if a lot of DAOs employ some like standards, at least to structure information that they're taking from their users, that would help to any solution like us. But if you, in general, want to step into the DAO space as a tooling provider, if you want to focus on the discussions area, or if you want to focus on some, I don't know, bot detection is a big problem. Or, for example, incentivizing community to increase participation. I can mention here the projects like Butter. So there are a lot of challenges in general in the DAO space. But when you build in a tool, and the challenge is still to validate your ideas to find the product market fit, because like in any startup, this is the biggest challenge.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. And then another question came in, and this is sort of like a general question. And it said, what has been your experience, or what have you seen as some big lessons learned?
From where?
I think probably more from like a governance and implementation standpoint.
I need to say that we started digging into the governance issues relatively recently, maybe last fall. Before, personally, I had a lot of experience in building mobile wallets or smart contract wallets. And we saw the traction that many DAOs, they use, for example, Gnosis for the treasury management. But also we see a lot of issues that for a long time, smart contract wallets, they were not well integrated into their voting activities or into other things. So here, the one big challenge in general, that the ecosystem is young, and probably as you might already saw during the presentation from Varia, even making some simple things, it's quite hard. And we are like all early adopters of this DAO space, or in general, we're doing the harder, the toughest things. Yeah. So maybe generation after us, it will be like seems like easy or straightforward or whatsoever. But now it's so clumsy and clunky and inconvenient, and you need to really fight with a lot of things. So in general, the young age of the whole space is the biggest challenge, I would say.
Yeah. There's a lot of room for improvement, which means there's a lot of room for opportunity, which I think is exciting. So, well, I want to thank all of you for joining us today and for presenting this masterclass. I think it's so important and so relevant. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Paris next week at the Daoist. I see we're both going to be there, and looking forward to seeing you guys again. For anybody tuning in, I was fortunate enough to meet the Goverland team at DAO Montenegro, so it'll be happy to reunite with all of you.
Thanks for having us, Yana.
Yeah, thank you all so much. Thank you, and we'll send this out we'll publish this, and thank you all for joining in today. And for anybody tuning in, here's the contact information still listed up here for the team at Goverland. And if you have any questions or you want to get in touch with them, you can reach them on any of these platforms. And if you're not able to catch this right now, you can always contact my DAO, and we'll put you in touch with our friends at Goverland. So thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Take care. Thank you.
Nice. Bye.